This is Sharon Lake, and I'll be demonstrating how to make little bags with flap closures from Sample Swatches. You'll also find this pattern in my book, Scrap Crafts for Sample Swatches, available on Etsy and Amazon. These bags are just right for jewelry or other small treasures. The swatches commonly come in 3.5 by 7.5 or 4 by 8, and both work for these instructions. You will find wonderful fabrics with all the colors and textures, yes, imaginable. I have found my swatches at upholstery stores. They're more than willing to give you ones that are out of date, at secondhand stores and garage sales. Generally, I find people don't know what to do with these one-of-a-kind, single small pieces of exquisite fabric. Now you'll be able to choose two that contrast or complement and make something beautiful. For the demonstration, I'm using medium weight contrasting cottons. I'll be using contrasting thread. This will make the construction easier to see. We are joined today by an Australian chook, also known as a chicken. And she's in my book, and I'll also be doing another video on her construction. You'll be cutting the one outside and one lining, both the same size. Notice that the length is close to 2 times the width. Now, this step you're going to be pinning on the Velcro. I choose Velcro on this project. You can also use buttons or snaps. If you like, it can be just a closure without any attachment. You'll find the center either by measuring, or you can fold it in half, pinch it, and find the center that way. The fuzzy Velcro goes on the outside, and that's 3/8 of an inch down from the edge. That's where when you're using a 1/4 inch seam, and that last 1/8 of an inch gives you just that little bit from the edge of your fabric. That one right there. Okay. Now remember, both Velcro go on the outside of each fabric. In this step, you'll be placing the pieces right sides together. The outside with its Velcro at the bottom end, and the lining with its Velcro at the top end. Notice they're right sides together. Then you're going to be measuring 2 inches from the top, and this is going to be your flap end. So we're measuring 2 inches, and the other side, of course. And pinning around on this top, which is going to be your flap. I like to put a pin right here in that middle, because when you use that 1/4 inch seam along here, it gives you an 1/8 of an inch leeway for that top edge. And then you'll be sewing along the bottom. So it's going to be back stitch, up, corner, across, down, back stitch, and then along your bottom seam. That's step 3. I just love several things about this pattern. It looks hard, but it's not. And if you just keep following the directions, you'll be delighted. At this step, you're going to be opening it up so the lining lies to the left. Your flap is going to go over to the right, and you're going to be pinning the lining side first. You'll be able to open this up and match those seams, and you can feel where they come together. In the lining part, pin. If you're right-handed, I put a pin in sideways. That reminds me that I need to have an opening. If you're left-handed, put the pin on the other side, or opening on the other side. Same thing with the other side of the lining. Look underneath, match those seams, pin, pin. Turn the flap over, you'll be pinning the other side. This is the outside. Again, notice how those come together. Pin, pin. When you are sewing these seams, you will be sewing right up to these stitch lines of the flap. So you're going to stitch, 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 maybe half a stitch or in that stitch, and then come forward. You don't want to go beyond that. Of course, the outside, you're stitching both sides. The lining, you're stitching that side, and then part of that one to leave the opening. So we have the bag sewn together. This is what I call birthing the bag, and it's my third favorite step of this project. Unlike other births, once this one comes out, you can just tuck it in a drawer. There are at least 2 ways to turn corners. I'll show you both. In this one, notice I have left that corner without cutting it. So I'm going to put top down, side in, hold it with my thumb and pointer finger, and then with this hand, notice that I'm just over the stitch line. And with this hand, it's a little tricky, I'm going to put that in, and then when that comes out, you can see that it's a pretty good corner. Maybe, tug it a little bit. The other corner is more classic, and this one is where you sew more than once on that corner. You cut across here. When I use this, I'll use just a tiny, tiny bit of glue right in that corner to keep it from fraying. And then that one comes out, and you use a pointer of some sort to get that so that it goes to the point. Then, of course, the rest of the bag. There it goes. In this step, you will be sewing the opening closed by tucking in the edges and sewing very close to the outer edge. Then you tuck in the lining. This is my second favorite stage of this project. Tuck in that lining, and there's your bag. I will often press along this edge here. Be careful that Velcro will melt along here. And then you may want to give it just a light press along this edge to keep your flap down, and maybe just a general press on the back. Beware of these exquisite fabrics because they're very, very heat sensitive. You don't want to get all the way to the end and end up with a plastic glob. And this is my favorite step. You can add a button or bead or a doodad, and it just, they just sparkle. And the step is to step back, admire your work, and take in that sense of completion. I will often take a project that I've done, put it someplace where I can see it when I walk by doing everyday stuff, just to admire it for a while. The idea that I had finished it, it's good enough, and enjoy that sense of completion. You can find over 40 more projects using upholstery and swatch fabric samples in my book, Scrap Crafts for Sample Swatches, available on Etsy and Amazon. Please enjoy.